The Israel-Palestine conflict, a long-standing and intricate geopolitical issue, has far-reaching ramifications that go beyond its boundaries. While the major attention is often on political, humanitarian, and security issues, the financial world is not immune to its consequences. This video examines the various ways in which the Israel-Palestine conflict might affect global financial markets. Let's get into it. Before we get into detail, we first need to talk about the impact on international markets. When the markets opened in the United States on Monday, investors responded angrily to the tragic events in Israel. Crude oil, gold, and the US dollar all saw price increases. They have since stabilized. Many airline stocks fell on Monday, including Delta, United, and American Airlines, as well as International Airlines Group, owner of British Airways and Lufthansa. Prices recovered in most cases the next day. However, the travel scenario remains precarious. Let's discuss the conflict. The conflict between Israel and Palestine is not new, and we may need to go back in time, at least a few thousand years, to really comprehend it. Let us try to describe the conflict in a brief yet instructive manner. The rivalry between the two countries dates back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when Jewish Zionists attempted to build a homeland in Palestine, which was then under Ottoman administration. With the British mandate for Palestine following World War I and the enormous immigration of Jewish immigrants, the situation became increasingly complicated. Tensions rose in the mid-20th century, culminating in the 1947 United Nations Partition Plan, which proposed dividing Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab governments, with Jerusalem under international control. While Jewish authorities approved of the plan, Arab leaders rejected it, precipitating the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. This war resulted in the foundation of the State of Israel, as well as the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, resulting in a refugee problem that continues to this day. Subsequent battles, such as the 1967 Six-Day War, changed the region's physical boundaries and power relations, with Israel controlling the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. The conflict encompasses rival claims to the same territory, self-determination problems, and refugee rights. Peace talks have been attempted, but a comprehensive and long-term solution remains difficult, with ongoing violence, settlements, and disagreements over borders and sovereignty. The dispute between Israel and Palestine remains one of the most complicated and divisive topics in international relations, with ramifications for regional stability and global diplomacy. Well, let's talk about the immediate effects of this war. The war's short-term damage is already obvious. The main effect has been on crude oil prices, which have risen about 5% since the declaration of war. If the crude oil price continues to rise, it might have a substantial influence on some specific stocks, as well as the larger economy in India. Companies that use crude oil as a raw material have seen their stock prices tumble in the last 2 days. If the price continues to rise and reaches the 3-digit threshold, the Indian economy may be impacted in certain ways as a result of this unanticipated price hike. But the question is, how could the war affect you? Travel delays? Higher gas prices? As Ukraine's fight against Russia has demonstrated, foreign battles can have ramifications for Americans. The upcoming Middle East war could have a lot of consequences for Americans. Petrol prices may rise. The spike in oil prices may result in a price increase at the pump, similar to what occurred after Russia attacked Ukraine. Though current crude oil prices have settled following the first surge, it may be prudent to keep your gasoline tank full in case the Israeli war escalates. International flights have already been cancelled, and the timetable may be disrupted further. Flight cancellations and delays began over the weekend in Israel and neighboring nations. There may be repercussions for some travelers when airlines cancel or divert flights to the impacted area. If you intend to travel to Europe in the near future, keep an eye on your flights. Check your trip insurance coverage as well, as most policies do not cover disruptions caused by war. So the question is, how is the military aid issue complicating the US government's budget impasse? As the Israel-Palestine conflict continues to dominate headlines and generate serious concerns, Congress finds itself at the center of a political storm. A crucial problem looms large within these sacred walls: the disbursement of U.S. federal funds to help not only Israel but also Ukraine. Lawmakers are embroiled in a bitter feud, their differences highlighted by the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia. This parliamentary impasse is analogous to a raging river threatening to breach its banks, threatening a government shutdown on October 1st, with the clock ticking down to Congress's mid-November deadline for approving the nation's yearly budget. The stage is set for a riveting political clash. In one corner, President Joe Biden and Democrats are adamant about including funding for Ukraine in their next spending measures. On the other hand, a heated debate rages over whether or not to commit resources to Israel in this hazardous environment. The absence of a House Speaker complicates matters further, accentuating existing tensions and sparking heated debates within the chambers. This volatile atmosphere threatens to cast a pall over the nomination of a new speaker, potentially mired in its complexity and uncertainties. Now we talk about the economic ramifications in Palestine. Because of the conflict, the Palestinian economy, particularly in Gaza and the West Bank, is facing numerous obstacles. Economic challenges are exacerbated by restrictions on the movement of people and goods, infrastructure degradation, and political instability. So, what are the implications for international investors in the context of these considerations? International investors are paying close attention to the Israel-Palestine issue, and their thorough examination of this lasting geopolitical turbulence provides a compelling chapter in the world of finance. Understanding the complicated web of risks and possibilities woven into the very fabric of this region is crucial for these global stakeholders, driving their decisions on portfolio diversification and risk management. Here, humanitarian and economic consequences are worth discussing. Keep watching, guys! The Israel-Palestine conflict is more than just a clash of ideologies or territorial claims. Its consequences run deep into the fabric of human life and economic survival. Both Israelis and Palestinians are stuck in a vortex of not only political strife but also significant humanitarian and economic consequences. This dual impact produces a vivid and highly moving portrait of the conflict's harsh realities. The increase in unemployment rates is one of the most immediate and heartbreaking impacts of the conflict. The ongoing state of instability, along with the devastation of companies and infrastructure, has rendered countless people jobless and forced them to face the loss of their livelihoods. This economic distress adds to the human toll of the fighting. While economic losses can be calculated, the psychological and emotional toll is incalculable. Living in a constant state of conflict with a constant fear of violence has a significant mental and emotional impact on the populace. This in turn has an impact on productivity and overall well-being. The consequences of the conflict do not fade away with time. They will have a long-term impact on future generations. Children growing up in conflict zones frequently have emotional wounds and suffer barriers to proper education and health care. It is critical to recognize that the impact of the Israel-Palestine conflict extends far beyond political and geographical lines. The economic and humanitarian challenges that both Israelis and Palestinians endure create a stark reality in which the consequences of conflict are seen in the lives of ordinary people. Understanding the multidimensional impact is critical to comprehending the lingering intricacies of this decades-long conflict. The war between Israel and Palestine, a tinderbox of historical animosities and territorial disputes, serves as a clear reminder that its implications transcend political borders and societal differences, seeping into the very sinews of the global financial network. This multifaceted rivalry orchestrates a symphony of financial market forces, casting a shadow on investments and investor behavior. Furthermore, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a pebble thrown into the huge pond of geopolitics, producing ever-widening circles of impact. Regional economies, from Jordan to Egypt, are being drawn into the conflict as tensions span borders. The global community cannot stay unaffected. Any escalation of the conflict might have far-reaching global economic consequences, generating ripple effects in a variety of businesses and markets. So, what do you think? Is it a huge collapse of financial markets due to the Israel-Palestine war situation? Well, let's leave this decision to you. So, leave your thoughts below in the comments section below. See you in the next video.